Today on the Self Smarter podcast.
If you decide in your leadership journey that what you are there to do is to develop and help others grow alongside you, with you, this to me is one of the things that I believe that we can become conscious of. And the sooner we become conscious of it, the better we are. Hi, we're Danelle and Megan, the hosts of this conversation-centric podcast for leaders seeking to be better every day. Whether you choose to be a leader in the workplace, at home, or in your community, we believe the most effective leaders are equipped to not only be self-starters, but self-smarter.
Hello, and welcome to Self Smarter. I'm Megan, and this is my friend and co-host, Danelle.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. We're in Dallas. It's super cold. And you know what fixes a cold day in Dallas?
What?
Queso.
Oh,
A warm bowl
I was
of
going to say
queso.
a fireplace, but okay.
I know. So
Queso does not suck either.
it doesn't. Yeah. Every time you're in Dallas, you're like, you know what I sure could go for right now? Some white queso.
Yeah, I mean, New York City is the most amazing place to eat in the world, but queso they do not have down.
Right.
They have a version. They have versions.
But it's not our queso.
No.
It just hits differently here.
Yeah.
It's just better.
Yes, absolutely.
It's weird because we actually had queso yesterday for lunch.
Yeah, that's all I wanted for lunch was queso.
Yeah, and we tried to add soup to be good, and then all we ate was the queso, basically, and some chicken out of the soup.
Yeah.
But now today, I'm like, queso sure does sound good again.
I mean, it's
always a good day.
It's just a rolling desire. Yeah,
Is everyone that way? I mean, I'm thinking that. I think everybody empirically loves queso.
I mean, I was out with friends recently, and we were like, "What's everybody hungry for?" And I was like,
Queso.
I know. For me, I'm hungry for Mexican, and I was like, so they did. They like took me to their favorite Mexican, and I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say it was their favorite, but it was what we could get into, and it was good. It was okay. It's just not. It's not Dallas.
Not home.
No, it's not home.
I know you miss it. That's why I wanted to bring it up today, and the fact that was the first thing that you thought of yesterday morning at 6 o'clock. I think I ate some queso today. Okay. Well, maybe for lunch, that would be good.
Yeah, exactly.
You recently on the foodie. So in case y'all haven't figured this out, I don't know that we've ever said that we're like obsessed with food.
Well, I think that's evident.
You
Yeah,
think
it's
you
like
figured it out?
I think people have figured it out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, y'all,
a given.
if you love food, I can't stop thinking about that burger, and I didn't even eat it.
Yeah.
You sent me a picture of a video
A video.
of a burger being cut into.
Yes.
Talk to me about this restaurant and this burger. It was the most mouth-watering thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, so I'm making lots of new friends in New York, and everybody brings something just amazing to the table, and whether it's experiences or whatever their role is in terms of their career and their backgrounds. But I have two new friends, Allison and Ashley, and they run a concierge company in New York, and so they know the food scene. Like, I mean, they'll even say like, you do pretty well. Like you do well for a non-New Yorker in terms of food in the city, in terms of things I've tried and places I've been.
Yeah, you're like a sushi expert.
Through the years, yeah. And obviously Mackie's kind of brought some mixture to the table too, being a quote-unquote starving student at NYU. That's kind of an oxymoron. Anyway, they have been introducing me to places I've never even heard of.
Cool.
So,
That's so fun.
yeah, and so we had a lunch recently at a place called Four Charles Prime Rib.
Okay,
Four Charles. Yeah, the number 4. Yeah, we'll put a link in there because they definitely deserve. And it's
Was it on Charles Street?
Yeah,
In West Village?
Right. That's kind of a theme right now. Is the restaurants or even my apartment building is the number of the street.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway. Back to the burger. And so this place is impossible to get into. Like, I don't even know if it seats more than 20 people. And it's just this, it's on my list to take you to because it's just incredible, the decor. Anyway, this burger, I don't even know how to explain it. We'll put a picture of it on
video.
The video. But it is like double meat patty. The bread is unbelievable. The bacon is the thickest I've ever seen. It is
like well done.
Yeah.
Like well done, well orchestrated. burger.
And it's one of the things that they're most famous for. So, and I think there's another restaurant called Au Cheval. I'm sure I'm butchering the name of that, but that is the more approachable, easier to get into, and they have that burger there.
Okay.
So you're getting that burger whether we go to this, if we can snag a seat at this for Charles Prime Rib. But anyway, I appreciate my friends. They're introducing me to so much. But yeah, the food scene in New York, I'm learning a whole new, I feel like an expert level now. And what I love about it is it's not the Michelin star. It's like when I'm in there, I realize I'm in there with locals.
Right.
Like people who, it's like there's this list of restaurants that are available to all of us for when we visit or they get the acclaim. And then there's this whole other group of places to eat, and they're not large. Like they're cozy and they're just... The food is unbelievable, and a lot of young, vibrant. Yeah. Anyway, I could go on and on, but yeah, that burger was something else, and I knew you and Aaron would lose your mind.
Aaron was like, "Okay, I'm going. Let me get on a plane right now, y'all." The burger is like, I mean, and they're going to stop talking about this burger, but the thing that's so impressive about it is, she said 2 patties. It's not like this big thick burger.
No,
it's like it's all crispy and gooey, and it just looks like what you see like on TV. I don't know. I just was taken aback by it because you don't see things like that every day in real life. No. IRL, as they say.
And I don't wake up going, "Ooh, I want a burger." Like it's never a thing I think about. You
wake up and think, "Oh, I want some queso."
Absolutely, and I'm fine with that. And sometimes a margarita. Like it is what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. But yeah, but I was so grateful to experience that burger.
Okay, well,
definitely one of the top burgers I've ever had.
Stay tuned, because as soon as I taste that, what did it taste like? Were you like yum yum yum?
Yes.
Okay.
And you just savor it. You take a bite and then you breathe and you look. I mean,
you breathe. You have a moment.
You're hoping you're not moaning out loud, but yeah.
Yeah, you look around and you think how grateful you are.
No, seriously, like you do. Yeah. Like I can't wait to take Mackie and Drew and whoever comes to visit me in the city.
Your favorite burger.
Ask for the burger. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I want to get a burger, but before we grab a burger, let's jump to this quick commercial. It's a new year, Self Smarter listeners, and never is there a better time than now to delve into your business's marketing plan for the upcoming year. At DMA, we're eager to help you do everything you got going on with marketing, but especially the things that you should be thinking about right now. For instance, let's finalize that marketing plan. Let's get your trade show booths and plans in order for the year. Let's analyze your digital marketing efforts for the prior year and put those learnings to work for you this coming year. Everything social media related. We can help you grow your community, engage with people more often, and ultimately build a relationship between your business and your prospective customers. No matter your marketing goal for the upcoming year, our team of marketers is ready to help you. To contact us, simply reach out to info@dma-solutions.com and we'll schedule a call to get down to business. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about a very important part of leadership, which is coaching versus problem solving, fixing. That's what we call it in Texas.
We do fixing things.
So we've named the podcast, the episode, The Art of Coaching and Leadership. Okay. But really what we want to say is this is about coaching and this is about fixing, because as leaders, we know there are two very distinct differences. We can just take on the problem and get it done quickly for whatever reason. We're going to talk some more about that, or we can help somebody help themselves.
Yep.
So why did this is, I mean, I remember the day that you looked at me, it was a long time ago, and you said, listen, I mean, I wouldn't say it was like the nicest, but I don't know that was
probably not.
You didn't need to be. You said, I asked you probably a dumb question.
There are
no dumb questions, but you looked at me and you said very, very sternly, firmly, let me say, the next time you have a question for me like that, have a solution, at least one.
No.
And I was like,
ooh, I was
noted. So then, but what I had to do was, before I was going to knock on your door and come in your office, I actually had to think through a solution, and 9 times out of 10, I didn't have to come down to knock on your door.
That's right.
And that's the thing. So that's what we really hope to do, to talk through today and just talk about the challenge. Look, we're all about validation on this podcast. So let's validate it. Why is this a challenge for leaders?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you gave an example of a time where I was able to actually coach you, but it came with a lot of experience of not coaching and instead taking the easy route, which is to listen to what you had to say. In this instance, listen to what you had to say and solve the problem immediately. And what good was that doing for you?
Nothing.
And I think that when we start to think about our role as leaders, especially in this podcast is going to be, or this episode is going to be a lot about our relationship with others. Like literally, you know, sometimes our leadership discussions around things that we internalize that we need to be working on. This is really when it comes to interaction with others. And when we can become conscious, because this to me is it's one of the easier things that we can work on as leaders is learning to coach versus just do the thing.
I just want to stop you right there because I think that a lot of leaders, including myself, think that's super hard.
Okay, fair.
Hard.
Fair. I would say the harder part is breaking the habit, okay? What I'm suggesting is that being conscious of it, this is something easier for us to become conscious of.
Okay.
Than some of the other things. Than some of the other things, like me being firm or whatever nice way you put of me probably being an ass. Anyway, I think in that example that you gave was a good one because it came from a place of I had to break a habit for me and for you. And maybe that's not always the easiest thing in the world to do. And so I don't know if it was fortunately or unfortunately.
It was unfortunate.
I was a bit abrupt. But what I will say about the difference in coaching is, so back to my point, is that I think it's the consciousness of it, of realizing when do I have an opportunity to help someone grow? That gets very difficult. And I know we're going to talk about strategies and different types of coaching that are out there. But it is our instinct, I think, especially when we're thrust into a role of leadership where we make that decision for ourselves or others help us make that by promotions or whatever it may be. And then we are so accustomed to fixing things and solving it. We almost think that's our role.
Our job.
Our job is to provide the solutions to all the things.
I'm supposed to know everything. Here's the answer.
Right. And so I just think about, wait a minute, how is that robbing someone else? And again, we're going to talk about instances where you just absolutely have to do the thing. And I get it. But I think there's nothing wrong with admitting that we all tend to have a desire to want to fix things. So there's also, we think it's our role, but then there's just something that, there's a high. There's a...
Like an adrenaline or something.
Adrenaline.
Like a dopamine.
A dopamine, yeah. We were talking about some personal stuff this morning, and it was like a savior complex.
Yes.
You know, that would be brought up in therapy. I think it's been brought up to me in therapy a lot. Anyway, I think that it does. There's a high with, oh, I know the answer to this. And 9 times out of 10, maybe you do. But how is that helping someone else? And I think when we can take more of the servant leadership mindset and imply some humility and, you know, put the ego over here and allow someone else to have the opportunity to do that. Now, that comes with some finesse, and you've got to learn how to catch that for yourself. You've got to learn how to slowly integrate that into your relationship with those that you lead. Because like with me, you said, I remember distinctly, it was one day.
One time.
But I could have probably given you a heads up that I was going to start practicing that. But, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, it ended up serving us both in the end.
Absolutely.
And so I just want all the leaders to know that this is something that it is common and it's part of the journey. And if you decide in your leadership journey that what you are there to do is to develop and help others grow alongside you, with you, this to me is one of the things that I believe that we can become conscious of. And the sooner we become conscious of it, the better we are.
Absolutely.
I also think that this doesn't just apply to those that we lead in the, you know, on our teams or with the folks that we work with, but I also think with clients.
Yes.
And many times this is also something to be practiced with them, and certainly as parents.
Yes.
Certainly those of us who are, and I know a lot of you, because I know a lot of the folks that listen, you have teenage kids and they're transitioning into adults. It's just easier for us to keep solving all the problems. And I'll tell you, Mackie Payton and I have gone, and we still go through iterations of this. And so I think this is a practice that will help us in all the areas of our lives if we can become more again, just more conscious of it and start to practice and mold that. That's why we're talking about it today. But what happens, if we choose to stay in the role of doing all the things, fixing all the things, obviously, like I've said, we're holding back growth for those around us. It is, I think in some ways we shy away from it because it can feel like we're delaying something because maybe it's not clear. It's going to take you a little bit longer. Decide when those opportunities, when it's okay for there to be a little bit of a lag of time. Right. But I think, the urgency for the society that we live in, it feels like we have to fix things right away. And I think too, what this also does, and I don't think we realize it, is that it creates a reliance. Like you're creating a reliance that you're the only one that can do it.
That's right.
Then that puts pressure on you because you're like, I don't have the capacity to continue to do this. And so you become frustrated, but you don't realize you're in control of fixing that, right?
You told me that.
Well, that's the beauty of it when we can become aware of it and look at it from a different lens.
I mean, I want to validate the people that are listening to this right now and going, like, I'm talking to you. Danelle's talking to you. We are talking to you. If you are going, oh my gosh, I do everything. Or in your head, and why do people come to me
all the time?
All the answers. Like, why can't they go pick up the paper or whatever, whatever the thing is, it's like, where the paper is, you know what I mean? You need to almost separate yourself from that reality to watch and see, are you the problem?
Yes. And a lot of the times we are. And I know that I was for sure. And I could just, there's just like this repetitive behavior and it becomes an instinct on both sides. It's just easier to ask.
Sure.
You know where the answer machine is. It's like a vending machine. Yeah. I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to punch the number, and the answer is going to come right out, or the problem the problem is going to be solved. So, and I also think that when we continue to solve a problem, what if there's a different way to think about it? What
have it.
Right, and we stifle creativity. We stifle, an expanded thought around maybe it's a similar problem that we have to solve in our line of work, or if it's a similar problem that we're dealing with at home. What if there is another way? Maybe let's not use the word better, just a different approach to it. Then we get the chance to grow as well. Because I was like, wow, I've never thought about getting to the point we have to get to around that corner versus the corner that, I normally take. That's so anyway, I think I just don't see this as a major challenge. I see it more as just an opportunity for us to, again, for those of us who are truly dedicated to the type of leadership where others grow around us with us, this is something that we can become conscious of and we can start to work on. It's not like some of the other things that we have to learn that takes a lot of time to develop. Yeah. This is something I believe we can get our arms around pretty swiftly.
A couple of episodes ago, we talked about not goals, but like really like looking forward into the new year. So name any year. If I'm you, listener, and I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, and I'm finding and feeling like this is really striking a nerve, because I think it is. In my role, a leader of leaders.
Yes.
Leaders, this is where they have a big rub. That, like, this is the common complaint to me is I feel like I'm solving everyone's problems. And I'll say back, and I think you said this to me at one point, why are they always coming to you? Like, I can't answer that for you, but what I can do is ask you a question to make you think about it. Like, why are they coming to you all the time? And then I was like, oh no. Like I used to tell you, my door is like a revolving door. And you're like, why is that? What that told me was I'm not leading, I'm not coaching enough.
Coaching a lot, yeah.
In order for them to go be able to figure out the problem themselves. And so an indicator to you, listener, that this is working after you spend 6 months, 8 months, a year delving into this year, that you start to see less of that. And it doesn't mean you're not needed anymore. And I know a lot of us like to feel needed, but we certainly don't like to feel overwhelmed and underwater.
Correct.
So this should help with that. And really, if we're going to be positioning ourselves as coaches, what we have to do is understand the mindset.
Yep.
So rather than being the sole problem solver, where's the paper? Okay. I need to guide the team member through it's like a collaborative journey. I'm going to walk you over to the paper. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm boiling this down to where it's so minimal.
Explain to people don't understand the papers. Machine. You're right. This is just a thing we had at our office. So give the full context.
Okay. So, Danelle and I always feel like, and honestly, some of the more tenured members of the team feel like we're never too good to put paper in the copier.
No, especially if we use the damn thing.
It doesn't matter. Like, I think there's like this notion that, oh, that's an intern's job, or, oh, that's so-and-so's job. No, we set that culture right out of the gate. No, everyone's job is to make sure we can all print.
Correct.
Like, at a minimum, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And do your own damn dishes. That's a whole nother.
Do your own damn dishes. Right. Well, then you notice as you start to build a team and the team starts to grow, nobody knows the things that you know. You have this wealth of knowledge about the operations of a space. And I can't tell you how many times people would ask me or tell me that the machine was out of paper, the copy machine. And I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know what do you want me to say to that? Like, oh no, we should probably replace it or add it in if you're trying to print. Like, but then I realized, oh man, they like don't know where the paper is.
Right.
So the collaborative journey, y'all, and I know this sounds so like
trivial.
Like I'm being facetious. I'm not.
Yeah.
Walk them over to where the paper is stored and be like, here it is. This is the 8.5 by 11. And here's the legal. We don't ever use the legal.
But it's good that we have that function.
We have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have it in case you need it.
Yeah.
Or you want to scribble. I don't know. But anyway, you have to teach somebody how to do that themselves in a collaborative way. Don't be bashful about that.
Yeah, and I just want to point something out, just because we're giving this context. And again, if you're hearing it from one way, you may be thinking, "Wow, they're pretty harsh about the paper." But what the point is that there's not laziness involved in what she's describing. The people who needed help learning how to do the paper, sometimes it was just intimidating because you have a $10,000 machine there.
Yes.
And it was, it's confusing. Like, hell, I had to learn how to do the paper, and then I would be away and I would forget, and then somebody would have to show me again. So it's not a matter of people were being lazy. It was a matter of we weren't taking the time to make sure that we were teaching. I mean, coaching is teaching.
That's right.
And guiding.
Right.
But it's not always doing the thing.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. And it distributes responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Distributes responsibility and fosters a sense of ownership amongst the team member. Copier, you name it. Marketing plan, messaging guide draft, analytics report, name your thing. Everybody needs to be shown how to do it so that they can go be responsible and have a sense of ownership of that thing.
Yep.
In terms of mindset, a coach really asks great questions. Yep. I learned this from you. You're naturally curious. I guess I'm not. Or I am, but on the inside.
You are curious on the inside for sure.
I don't verbalize it, but you were one of my mothers this way too. So I watch you both, but you asked really thoughtful questions, like I don't know that you were always looking for the answer by the question asking. What you were looking for is the thought, to generate thought in the other person. You almost knew the answer, but you were asking questions to lead the person to the answer. So that's a good coaching technique to help somebody think in the moment while you're trying to transition that learning to the next person.
Yep.
You also see a result of this is big differences in small gestures, big and small gestures, really, that results from the people you're leading. So now they're not asking you anymore. They're guiding you on the messaging guide.
Yeah.
They're teaching others how to fill the paper in the copier. And I know that people that struggle with this, leaders that we lead at DMA, I'll say, well, what would make you feel better? Like, what would be a better result? Like, what do you want to see? And they'll say, I want her or him to put the paper in the machine. And I was like, have you told them that?
Yeah.
Like, a sign of success here is you putting the paper in the machine or you drafting the messaging guide, and then let me look at it, So just let's not be afraid to communicate as coaches either.
Yep.
Set some expectations. We also look, to your point, curious people to lead. It's not a bad thing. I will say this. I was having this discussion with someone the other day about curiosity. I think it was you. I was saying
9 times out of 10.
Some people don't want to seem curious because they don't want to be perceived as not having the answers.
Oh yeah. That's a whole different, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. But it's counterintuitive.
It is.
As a coach, you have to be a good question asker. And what you're looking for are wonderful questions back, because then that's giving you an indication of how well you're coaching.
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And the acumen of the person that you're coaching. Maybe we need to dial this back. Maybe we can leap this forward even faster than I thought we needed to, just based on the questions and the curiosity that this person has.
Yeah, and this is just a pro tip out there on that particular subject is, again, just restating that sometimes we don't ask questions because we're afraid that we'll be seen as, like we don't know enough about a topic.
That's right.
I will tell you that most of the time, a good question will take you far further than a reluctance to do so. And if you're nervous about doing that particular thing because you think you have to know all the answers, use this. Say, tell me more about this. And a good leader will. A good leader will tell you more about it. It doesn't only have to be in the form of a question. If the question asking is making you feel a little bit more intimidated, there is nothing wrong with saying, tell me more about feeling, whatever the matter is. And leaders should want to do that. And so it's just again, for anyone who struggles with that, that's a good way to navigate that potential fear.
It is. And curiosity.
Or insecurity. It's more of an insecurity.
It is.
Yeah.
But, people like yourself, so I want to say this. You coached me and taught me how to overcome that fear by asking questions. Not always just to me. I'm talking about in an audience. We'd be in a room of 500 people at a breakfast and they're like, are there any questions? Any questions from the audience? It's like crickets. And then I was like, way over here in the back, I have a question, and I'm like, oh, what are you doing? At first, but she's being curious and now everybody wants to know. Now it's like, who's that? That was an interesting question. So you taught me, look, as a marketer and as a business leader, if you want to get noticed, you might want to raise your hand every now and then.
Yeah.
So there's just another pro tip there.
Okay. Why was I in the back of the room? I'm just curious.
I don't know. We probably weren't, but I felt like it, and maybe that's where I wanted to be. And then here you are.
Maybe that was closest to the buffet,
bar.
to the buffet or bar. Yeah.
To the wine. Okay. And I told you this too this week. One of the quotes that I use more often than not around here is give a man a fish and feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. I've especially been using that since December because we've got some rising leaders. We've got some people who are learning how to manage and learning how to distribute responsibilities and quite frankly, take on new responsibilities.
Yeah.
And so I have said this weekly to somebody new.
Good.
So it's
Great
good.
quote. I think it should be updated to people, but whatever.
Yeah. It's old, man. It's like a proverb from, yeah, it's like something super
then
old.
we'll leave it in historical context.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right. So let's talk about some various styles of coaching.
Okay. There's, I think, kind of the easiest and most straightforward is goal-oriented coaching.
That's what we all know.
Right. So in this scenario, the focus is on setting and achieving specific, measurable, and realistic goals that align with the, whether it's personal or professional objectives. So really coaching someone in the sense of, the way that I would approach goal-oriented coaching is to, again, ask the person what they feel would be a goal worth pursuing relative to the business. Or I have this conversation on a regular basis with my daughter. What are the goals for this month relative to you advancing your career? I mean, instead of the whole year, let's focus on January.
That's right.
And once I learned to do that a little bit more with Mackie Payton, I started to see her confidence gain because it was like, gosh, mom needs a plan for a whole year.
And I'm overwhelmed.
Right now, all I care about is January. What are the 5 things you're going to do in January that advances your pursuit of what you're trying to achieve? And you know what? You can ask me the same damn question. And so it's thinking about coaching. Sometimes we tend to walk into the room, we've already set the goals.
Yep.
Or we already have the goals set in mind. So then when the person we're interacting with doesn't quite come up with that, that's the wrong answer. There shouldn't be a wrong answer in goal setting. Now, the goals, especially in relative to business, the goals do have to align with where the company needs to go, what the company needs at the time, whether that's a revenue or sales related goal or it could be any number, but still I think the person needs to be informed, and that's our role as a coach too, is to inform the people that we lead to the business needs and what needs to happen, but then to also allow them the opportunity to try to solve and contribute to what needs to be done through specific goals. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, you know, when I'm preparing for this episode and I'm thinking about goal-oriented coaching, we almost as business, if you're in a business where you're trying to achieve a number, let's be honest, like this has to exist.
yes,
The finesse, to your point, comes in where you allow someone to put themselves into that goal personally.
correct.
So we have a personal goal to get to X number. You personally are probably, we need to get there together. What do you need to work on personally, goal-wise, to help us together get to this number, right?
Yes.
So I think this is a must. Okay.
Absolutely. Next is strength-based approach to coaching. You know, looking at someone's individual strengths, how they're wired. You know, it's a way of empowering us. The more we know about ourselves and the more that we're inclined to learn about others, the outcome of that knowledge is what will, to me, will progress every relationship, no matter what the kind of relationship we have as leaders, forward in the most expedited way. And we're not even expedite. I don't think that's the right word, but the most meaningful and lasting way.
That's right.
And obviously, that's something we are. That this whole podcast is about, really.
That's right. So, yeah. I mean, to me, this is what we focus on a lot at DMA. And I think the reason why, and I think for our listeners, understand what business you're in. If you're in a service business or a widget business, it doesn't matter what you deliver.
Yep.
Whoever is making sure that that's happening, that those things are being executed on a daily basis to get you to your monetary goal or to your big goals, you must tap into their strengths in order to do that.
Yep.
And it's going to be custom. So this is where the real hard work comes into play. So for example, if you work on, if you are, I'm just going to pick an apple grower up in Washington State, and you have a pack line. So that means the apples come down a line. Somebody has to hand pick those. They've not just picked them off the trees by hand. And I don't know if y'all realize that, listeners. I know those of you in produce do. Someone has to hand pick those, put them in a truck. The truck takes them over to a warehouse. The warehouse sorts them in, but a human being has to look at those apples and put them in the right order and the right boxes and look for blemishes and look for things that you don't want. If that man or woman on that pack line's not happy, or if they're having a bad day, or if we're not tapping into their strengths as like the best darn, blemish finder you've ever found, or if we don't recognize them for being a nice person and a motivator along the rest of the line, we might find that our production struggles a little bit.
Yeah.
What you might find your end customer finding more blemished apples. So that's just an easy way of pointing out how literally not tapping into strengths as a coach can hinder an end product.
Yeah. That was, I forgot about apples for a second in terms of how they were picked, but thanks for that lesson.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. We have to remember that.
We do. And then I think too, if you're thinking about coaching as being a vehicle through, to empowerment. So coaches should empower individuals to take ownership of their own development by fostering self-awareness, self-reflection, and accountability. So I think those two kind of go hands in hand. Strength-based approach should lead to empowerment. When we're making it a part of our culture, of the way we do things around here, is to learn about ourselves and know how we literally are functioning.
Yeah.
And where our strengths currently lie, and then the areas where we need work, because we all do. And then that changes with seasons, and that's a whole nother topic. But again, that's kind of the genesis of why we're doing this podcast, is to elevate those types of things. But I think that is crucial as well, to think about empowerment as being the results of a strength-based approach to coaching.
That's right.
Long-term vision. Coaching is not a quick fix. It involves a long-term commitment to personal and professional growth. So the point here is that when we solve a problem, that can be almost finite. But when we decide to be a coach, it's ongoing. It's no different than when you decide that you want to be a leader. There shouldn't be a stop date. I mean, even with me and all the changes and my roles, and even in my personal life, it's not like I decided to quit leading because I'm not sitting in the day-to-day chair of president.
Still leading.
Yeah, I'm just leading in a different way. I'm still leading my daughter who's 23, but it was very different than when she was 16. Yeah. Well, and you, it goes without saying, I'm saying both professionally and personally. It doesn't mean I'm not a leader. So it's a commitment, and coaching is how I choose to be my primary form of leadership today. And that took some time to get there, because what I had to do is I had to be conscious of my abilities for those that I do have a role of as a leader with, to teach them to also lead. And so that's an ongoing thing. And then to teach you, oh, wait a minute, you're definitely leading the organization, you're leading some of the functions of the business. We need to now start to work on your ability to lead others. And the paper example that we talked about earlier is a good example of that. So
things that you do now that I love so much is, I mean, you ask me questions a lot, but you just expect me to give you the updates that, we really need to discuss. And what I like about it is you'll say, okay, well, as we're navigating that, you might think about blank, blank, blank. You're not telling me what to do. You're giving me a heads up of what's probably coming because you've been there.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. So that's coaching. That's almost like next level coaching. What you're talking about is you're leading by, I mean, it is similar, but it's like you're almost like, man, I would think about it this way and I'd think about it this way, because there's going to be two different,
Yeah,
it's just different.
I see what you're saying. And at the beginning of the episode, we talked a lot about the type of coaching where I know the answer.
Yes.
Because I've done it. Now, I don't always know the answer. In 2023 taught us that. If you listen to the previous episode 98, we talk a lot about, our year. Or was that 97? It was 97.
Look at that.
Where we talk, look at us recall. Well, we're
on a good path.
On a good path. Yeah, exactly. But we talk about the challenges that we faced in 2023 and how some of them were unfounded. But I don't need to know the answer anymore. All I need to be is a guide. So when you're now, this is a different form of coaching. I'm just guiding you. I'm like, I'd be curious about this. I think we're going to need to figure this thing out. I don't even know what the answer is, but I know that you can go figure it out. You can think about it a little bit differently. And then the next time we talk, you can say, well, I looked into that a little bit more, and here's what I know for sure. And here are some of the other things that we kind of, the variables.
That's right. Yeah.
So a lot of times, my point being, it depends on where your role is and where your tenure is in your journey or the relationship with the other person.
Right.
Is, and I assume this is going to eventually be, and sometimes it is, as a mother.
Yes.
Mackie's growing up in I'm 28 years older than she is. I don't know all the answers to her problems. I don't. I know some of them.
Yes.
I know some pretty basic answers to some money problems that the kid faces. Like, make some more. There's spend less,
Right.
But there are things that she's challenged with that I have no context for. I didn't have to experience that at 23 years old. Maybe that was something I didn't experience till I was 40. Maybe it's something I've never experienced. So again, thinking about it in that way, just because we've owned the fact that part of our leadership journey is to become a coach if we want to be effective, that still doesn't mean we know all the answers. So it's leading someone to help them
help themselves.
Well, help them figure it out and help you.
Yeah, that's right. Freedom. Yes.
So it's good context there.
I love it. Okay. So getting real about just fixing it, because I do talk to leaders, and I know, like, obviously I'm going through an evolution here where I've got leaders who are like, why do I always have to, and I feel that. But getting real about it, honestly, sometimes it's just necessary. And so for me leading leaders, and I'm sure for you leading me, this is sometimes just something that we just going to have to just say it, like, just do it. You know what I mean? So you're in these types of situations, I just want to call out, this is usually one of two things. So something that needs to get done quickly that requires a high skill set, and it's just not fair to ask somebody else to do it, or it's super time sensitive, or, and it's still not fair. Can you turn this around by midnight? Ew. Yeah. Nobody wants to be on the receiving end of that. But if you're the leader and you know that maybe we're the cause of that delay, or maybe you sat on a decision or something, just take care of it, right? Yeah. Okay. And it's also, it could be something that may be more long-term in nature. So, but it needs a high level of strategic planning to get it along. So this is, again, it's back to that skill level. I just, over the last year, I've had to really learn in coaching leaders how to lead. And then like, but you told me not to just fix it. And I'm like, yes, but, and there are circumstances where you're still going to have to step in, you know, and that's okay. Don't you want to?
Yeah.
You know? So it's just, we're just going to have to get things done tactically sometimes, and things are urgent. So it's just going to require a higher skill set. That's my advice to leaders leading leaders who are struggling with this. For me, like I said, this is sometimes one of my more favorite things, because I start to see the results from the leaders. They come to me and I'm like, how's that going? And they're like, oh yeah, she doesn't ask me about that anymore. I'm like, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
You know, you did it.
Yeah.
Good for you. So as a leader who likes to see results, I like to hear that from people I lead. How do you know if you're coaching well? Like, what do you see when you know coaching is going well?
I mean, I think you just articulated it beautifully.
Okay. Results.
It really is. And when that light bulb goes off, that moment when you have it within yourself because someone's not coming to you anymore, or you see them solving that problem and you're like, man, they used to ask me about that all the time and I don't ever hear about that anymore, but I know there's not a problem. Like there's evidence of that. I think it's when that light bulb goes off in yourself, and then where it really feels good is when you literally see it in action.
Yeah.
Whether it's through words or a guidance or, you know, again, a result. There's that, I don't know how to articulate it, because you just know when you know. But I think it's also in realizing, okay, when is it time to coach? And then to your example, there's going to be times where you just need to fix problems. But I think once you fix a problem or once you solve something, having the consciousness to think about how can next time that, you know, I'm not the one to do it, or is it even time for that in the organization right now? You know, I need to fix that for another year. I don't know. I'm making stuff up.
Yeah.
But, and I think too,
or
when
I
you're
need to bring them in earlier.
Yeah, something like this was I did this in a silo. I could have taught somebody that. They could have watched me. They could have. I could have talked out loud. They could have heard my process. And so, I think when we're able to understand that the combination's necessary in most, especially work environments, and in any relationships, quite frankly, that both are necessary. Coaching and, let's just call it problem solving, or fixing it as we call it here in Texas. And I think when you learn that, I think that's when the dynamic of the relationships start to evolve in a company, you know, and it took us a long time to figure that out. And that was on my shoulders for a really long time. And I think if we can get there quicker, because once we got there, we started to see the dynamic of our culture strengthen. I mean, immensely.
Immensely. So, do you recall, I thought this might be fun or traumatic, to one or the other, to like pull back from the memory bank. Like, do you remember a time when you were coached in a very good way?
Yeah. I mean, I have examples. And, you know, thinking about that, I started to reflect and I started to think, wow, some of my best coaching moments are when I sure as hell didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
But I needed it.
That's a good point.
But I didn't need it. You know, so I think sometimes we're in an organized mentoring or coaching relationship and we know that we can go ask to be coached. My best lessons came when I thought I had it all figured out and someone sat me down and said, you don't listen. Yeah. And so, yeah, I can think of a number of those. And I think one that really stands out is top of my game at the company that I worked for before it was sold to Del Monte and Standard Fruit and Vegetable.
Which was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
21.
Yeah. Yeah. And because I've owned this company 20 years. And so this was prior to that. So I'd say this could have been almost 25 years ago.
Okay.
And I was leading the largest account for the company and things were going really well in that capacity. And I started to need other things from operational leaders in order to serve this large account of ours. And I wasn't getting responses quickly like I thought that this deserved. And so I was being a bit abrasive. I was being, I wasn't working in a fashion that was healthy in any capacity. I was demanding things, and most of these people were 10 and 15 years tenured than me. I don't want to say older, but pretty much that's what it was. And, you know, I had a leader set me down and was like, listen, you're absolutely a superstar around here. And he goes, and by the way, just personally, we all adore you. And I need you to know that the way you're interacting with other leaders they definitely have years on you. And so you're not interacting in a way that makes them want to help you at all. They're doing it because it is the largest account and that's what the expectation is, but they should enjoy wanting to work with you to solve these problems, and they're not. That was some version. I'm loosely paraphrasing, but he had the care for me to be very crystal clear, as Brene will say, to be unclear is to be unkind. He had the ability to practice radical candor. If we're going to use Kim Scott's, he was clear, but he was very firm with me. And it broke me. It broke me to think that I could be doing that to people that I really respected.
Right.
I did respect my coworkers and, you know, my fellow folks on the leadership team. But I lost my way. I lost my own sense of I don't know, like I just was not, it was not okay. And I think because I had so much responsibility thrust on me at such an early time in my career, I just was,
hadn't learned yet.
I hadn't learned yet. And no one was going to teach me if he hadn't set me down and had that loving conversation with me, as hard as it was. I mean, I'll never forget going home to Drew and just being shattered. And I was like, I have a choice here. It was no different than when I got the 26% approval rating as a leader. That was the other coaching moment. I didn't ask for any of that. I didn't ask for y'all to tell me that I wasn't showing up well. I mean, I did pay for the consultant to come in and do the review where I thought I was going to get a B+. You know, I ended up in the D- column. But I just feel like those are the moments. Those are the moments we have to pay attention to that. And then we have to decide, are we going to do something about it, or are we just going to write that off for whatever reason? Right. You know, people are being sensitive, and, you know, this is the biggest account in the company. I could have written off all of those moments. But yeah, I would say I've been lucky in that way.
Right.
And I'm grateful for having listened in those moments.
Right. So in that story in particular, you know, I know that story, and it's always guided me if I'm having to have an awareness conversation with someone, a coaching moment, because you said it, it's the love.
Yeah.
You know,
it took me a minute to realize that. Like I had to go be upset for 24 hours.
Sure.
And then the realization kicked in.
He was doing me a favor, right?
Yeah, it's no different than, you know, I can get hot really quick. My voice goes from never 0. My voice goes from 7 to 72 very quickly. And I'll never forget when Mackie had the courage to tell me as a young teenager, young adolescent really, Mom, your voice scares me. And I felt like I had been just hit upside the head with it. Like it hurt so bad to hear that from the person on this earth that I love more than I can even imagine, to hear that from my daughter. But I had a choice. Yeah. I had a choice in that moment to be like, well, you know, why do I yell or whatever? And, you know, or why do I raise my voice, I should say. And I was able to have that conversation with her, but I didn't make it about what she had done. I should have been raising my voice to my daughter. Right. I should have more control. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen.
What you're saying is, for such a good kid,
yeah, like
it's unnecessary potentially.
What are we doing?
Yeah, right.
And it was something inside of me that I hadn't worked on, but she taught me in that moment just by saying, you know, because we were working on fostering a stronger relationship, and that's what came out. And I was able to also come back to her and say, I understand I'm doing this, and it's usually in these moments. Can we work on it? Can we have a word where I feel myself getting hyped up or amped up? I think you and I've had versions of this conversation of like, I feel myself going to that place. Yep. I don't want to go there. Right. I'm being vulnerable right now and saying I'm getting there.
And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk through this, or whatever our fixes we ended up finding through, you know, various versions of therapy or whatever we were, you know, learning about ourselves.
And half the time people just want to know.
Yeah, they do.
Like, what state are we dealing with? You know, so anyway, but yeah, I am totally jiving with this on a personal level too. And listeners, you may be going through a version of this too. Let's talk about parents. Let's talk about leaders in general. I think, back to, we think we have to know everything because we've been anointed.
Yes.
We've been given a prescription and now we're being anointed. What I have found so liberating, really, since my son has become a teenager, is to say, I'll give a recent example, upset or, just emotional. Like you said, Mackie said, when you yell, ours looks more like, it bothers me when you tell people all of my business, as I say this on the podcast right now. Irony? I don't know, Cooper. But I say back to him, look, I apologize if that makes you feel sad or vulnerable or angry. He's like, it makes me feel embarrassed. Okay. I'm like, got it. I just want you to know I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would have never said that to that person had I known it was going to embarrass you. I said it to you were right there. Because I'm trying. So what I've been saying lately a lot of the times is, and I don't think there's anything wrong with doing this at work either, is to say, look, this is my first time to do that. Like, this is my first time to be in this situation. That was your first time to hear that your voice was loud. I accept that. I embarrassed you. I accept that. And I'm learning. And I'm going to really be like conscientious to not do that again. I can't promise you that I'm never going to embarrass you or I'm never going to yell at you again, but I can tell you that I'm working on it.
Yep.
And so even by being vulnerable like that teaches him to be vulnerable. I hope that's the goal, right?
Yep.
So, okay. Do we have anything more? What about moments where you've given coaching?
Oh gosh.
I know you coach me all the time, but if there's one that stands out.
No. I mean, I don't want there to be a one. I want there to be a many. And, that's what I strive to be is I want it to be a continuous thing. I don't want a blue ribbon for it or a gold star for it. I want it to just be actually how I show up for people in that moment. And I want it, I see it as two-way now, especially in this season, of my journey, is that I think coaching is something that you can also have a mindset of, I'm just going to seek to be coached because I'm going to ask thoughtful questions. I'm going to try to figure some things out, but I'm also going to be humble enough to see how someone else might approach this or how maybe someone else dealing with this too. So yeah, I don't have a one.
Okay. I mean, I think our hope for our listeners today is just, really what I hope we have done today is seen you. Like, I hope you've been seen. I hope you feel seen. I hope you know that coaching is a purposeful activity.
Yes.
It's a mindful, I'm going to do this because I'm in the people business.
Yep.
And honestly, I don't care if you're leading a church group, a home, a business, you are in the people business. And so if you want to achieve those goals, goal setters, you got to be able to figure out how to coach.
Yep.
Because we are in the people business. All right. Okay, let's transition to something fun, music moment. We love the Enneagram. That's no big surprise. And so do our listeners. And we know that because a lot of our podcasts that are listened to more over and over again are Enneagram based. I thought it would be fun for music moment to look for musicians and bands and their corresponding Enneagram types. Turns out there's a whole article on this called Bands and Enneagram according to Typology Central.
Ooh.
So we'll add the link.
Yeah, that'd be great.
In the show notes. But I thought I'd kick it off with Rolling Stones. Now, mind you, what I'm about to say is you have to remember with an Enneagram number, there's your main dominant Enneagram number. And then you typically will align with a wing. And the wing is the Enneagram number both on both sides of your number. So for example, Danelle's a 7. She vacillates between both an 8 and a 6, but your dominant is a
7.
7, but with a wing.
Well, depends on what hat I have on.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I know for sure I'm a 9 wing 1.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Mine is really pretty balanced, but I could say most of the time it's an 8.
Oh.
Yeah, my predominant's an 8.
Great. Great. Okay. So what about the Rolling Stones? How about Mick Jagger? If I were guessing, I don't know that I would pin him this way, but that's what makes the Enneagram so special.
Yep.
Because it's not about what you think. It's about what the person thinks and feels.
Correct.
Mick Jagger is a 3 wing 2. So he's an achiever with a wing to the helper.
Yep.
Keith Richards, on the other hand, is a dominant type 4, the individualist, with a wing 3, the achiever.
Yep.
Makes sense. They're the Rolling Stones. They're amazing. They're arguably one of the best bands of all time.
Well, speaking of best bands, let me just go ahead and talk about the Beatles. So you have John Lennon, who is a 9 wing 8. No surprise there. It's, we write the song Imagine. It's John Lennon. Paul McCartney is a 3 wing 2. So both Paul and Mick, or the Rolling Stones, share that in common.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, George Harrison's a 4 wing 3. So
totally.
Just all bundled up in emotions and all the feels. And then you have Ringo is a dominant 9 Enneagram number with a wing 1.
Yep. So Ringo Starr and me are the same.
You are.
Just put me in the back. Let me hit the drums. I don't need to be Paul McCartney in the front.
No.
I would do that.
Yes.
I'd prefer to be in the back playing the drums. All right, Nirvana, Kurt Cobain.
Well,
I think this is so obvious.
So obvious.
Yes, a 4. Individualist 4.
Right.
Wing 3. And
so his ability to want to perform and
write music
that is so deep.
It's so deep and individualized, which is what made Nirvana so amazing.
Yep.
Right. And then Dave Grohl, who is infamously the one of the main singers of Nirvana and now Foo Fighters. He was the drummer of Nirvana. Is a 3 wing 4.
Yep.
So not only an achiever, but an artist.
Yep.
And an individualist.
And then I see you put in here Guns N' Roses, but it's a flashback. So you have Axl Rose, 3 wing 2, no surprise there whatsoever, and Slash, a 4 wing 3. So with all of these incredible bands, this relationship between the 3s and the 4s is just it's just very interesting.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I thought so too. Okay. And front person versus person who's like support artist on the guitar or the drum.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. In terms of solo artists, this is fun. We love Prince.
And
this wasn't a surprise to me either. I would have guessed this easily a 4 individualist wing 3.
Yeah.
So just like Slash.
Yep.
And just like George Harrison. Eminem. You like Eminem.
Yeah, I do. And he's again kind of a bit reversed, but in that same context, and so is Madonna, but they're 3s, their dominant numbers are 3s, whereas Eminem is wing 4 and Madonna's a wing 2.
Totally.
But still, it's like these dominant numbers throughout this list, and we can hit some of the other ones. Rihanna's a 3 wing 2. Brandi Carlile, our favorite, is a 1 with a wing 2. And Taylor Swift is a 3 wing 2 as well. So it's like a lot of these incredible artists, and there's so much more on here, but a lot of 3s and a lot of 4s, and a combination between the two of that. So that was just interesting. I wouldn't have guessed some of these, and then some of them are so obvious.
Make perfect sense.
Yeah.
I want to call out one of them, Stevie Ray Vaughan, who my husband loves, is one of the best arguably one of the better guitarists of our time.
Yep.
He wasn't necessarily, he did sing, but he was a guitarist first. He is a 6 wing 7, which does not surprise me at all, because he's not always needing almost like this front center stage persona. He wants you to hear this gift that he has on this guitar.
Yep.
Ugh, I just love it so much. Okay. Well, we hope y'all thought this was a good episode. I certainly feel very good about it. Do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Very good. And remember, we're going to put that link and some sources. We actually do have quite a bit of sources for you to check out about coaching or fixing or problem solving. So check those out. And thank you in advance for telling a friend about our podcast. Remember to visit beselfsmarter.com for more information and tools available to you. And until next week, we send you into the week with grateful hearts.
Goodbye, everyone. As always, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Self Smarter Podcasts. You can also leave a rating or review if you enjoyed what you heard today. Not only does this mean so much to us, but it also helps other leaders and future leaders find our community. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us in becoming Self Smarter. This podcast is produced by Snacks Media, and music is from a free platform. Well, that is until Brandi Carlile reaches out to us to write the original score for our podcast. Friends, have a great rest of your day.